Okay, let's get right into it. We're here for an urgent briefing on the Sunda pangolin, an animal that is right on the edge. To even have a chance at saving it, we first have to understand all the different forces pushing it toward extinction.
So this is the animal at the center of it all, the Sunda pangolin. It's this reclusive, nocturnal creature, and it's covered in these unique scales made of keratin, just like our fingernails. But it holds this really terrible distinction. It's the most illegally trafficked mammal on the entire planet, all because of a huge demand for its meat and its scales.
For this briefing, we're going to break it down into 5 key parts. First, we'll look at the jaw-dropping scale of the illegal trade. Then, we'll follow the money to see what's driving it. After that, we'll get into the pangolin's biology, which creates a kind of natural bottleneck. We'll also touch on the tough history of trying to breed them in captivity. And finally, we'll talk about a surprising bit of hope, a real window of opportunity.
All right, first up, we really have to wrap our heads around the sheer size of this problem. The numbers you're about to see are, well, they're honestly hard to believe, but it's so important that we look at them head on.
Think about this number for a second.
13.8 tons. Now that's not a yearly total. It's not even a monthly total. That was the weight of pangolin meat found in one single bust. One failed smuggling attempt back in 2008. It gives you a snapshot of just how industrial this whole illegal operation has become.
And if that weight is hard to picture, let's put it in terms of actual lives. That one shipment of 13.8 tons, it represents somewhere around 1,725 pangolins that were killed. And you have to remember, this is just one shipment that got caught. It paints a really grim picture of the intense pressure these animals are under in the wild.
So what on earth is fueling this level of poaching? You know, as is so often the case, the answer really comes down to powerful economic incentives. Let's follow the money.
And this table here really lays it all out. It's the core economic driver. See, on the local market in a place like Indonesia, a kilo of pangolin might go for about 550,000 rupiah. But if you can smuggle it to an international market, say China, that price explodes to $400. That's a nearly 8-fold increase. That massive profit margin is what keeps these sophisticated trafficking rings in business.
And it's not just about the criminals getting rich either. It's a huge loss for the pangolin's home country. That one seizure we've been talking about, it represented an estimated loss of 36.4 billion rupiah to the state. So this isn't just a conservation issue, it's a major economic issue too.
But the challenges don't end with trafficking. Even if we could wave a magic wand and stop it all tomorrow, the pangolin is up against another huge hurdle, its own biology. Bouncing back from this kind of devastation is incredibly hard for the species.
So you have to ask, right? Why can't their populations just rebound? Why is it so hard for them? Well, the answer is basically hardwired into their biology, and it creates this dangerous bottleneck that really jeopardizes their survival.
And it all comes down to this one number, 1. Pangolins give birth to just a single baby at a time. Unlike other animals that have big litters, every single pangolin lost to poaching is a massive blow to the population's future, because they just can't replace their numbers quickly. Let's just break that down for a minute. The gestation period is about 3 months. Then, just one baby is born, and after that, it's another 3 to 4 months before that little one is weaned. It's just an incredibly slow reproductive cycle. It means any recovery in the wild would take decades, maybe even centuries, and that's time the pangolin just doesn't have. So this brings us to the next logical step, right? If they can't recover in the wild, why not just breed them in captivity? And for years, that's been the goal, but it has been filled with huge challenges and, honestly, some heartbreaking setbacks. This simple truth is that pangolins just don't take to captive environments very well. They are super prone to stress, all sorts of health issues pop up, and historically, just keeping them alive, let alone getting them to breed, has been incredibly difficult for conservationists. And this chart here is a pretty brutal example. Look at this. At one facility, the population went from 110 pangolins in 2007 down to just 26 2 years later. These high mortality rates have just been a massive obstacle in the way of building up a stable, healthy captive population. But the story doesn't end there. In the middle of all these difficulties, recent scientific work has actually opened up this critical window of opportunity. It turns out, this unique animal has a surprising amount of resilience and adaptability. And the key is really found in this fundamental idea about animal behavior. It's that, yeah, behavior has a genetic basis, but it can be changed by the environment and through learning. And this concept, well, it's turning out to be the foundation for some real hope for the pangolin. And here is the really groundbreaking discovery. In the wild, pangolins are strictly nocturnal,
right? They only come out at night. But in managed care, where their food is put out during the day, they've started to shift their entire activity cycle. They are literally becoming active during the day. I mean, that is just a remarkable display of flexibility.
And this chart just visualizes that change perfectly. During the day, sure, they still spend about 70% of their time resting. But look at this. A full 20% of their daytime is now spent eating, with another 10% for moving around. They've basically rewired their natural rhythm to fit into this new environment.
And this ability to adapt, this behavioral plasticity, that's the key. When an animal can change something as basic as when it's awake and when it sleeps in response to how we manage them, that's a massive indicator that successful long-term care and breeding is actually possible.
So, when it all comes down to it, we have real, evidence-based reasons to be optimistic. We've seen that they can change their diet. We've seen them completely flip their daily schedule. And, maybe most importantly, there have been documented successful births in these managed environments.
And that brings us to the final and most important question. We know the pangolin is surprisingly resilient. We know it can adapt. So the question for all of us, for policymakers, for conservationists, is this. What specific policies, what investments in research and habitat design are needed right now to take this adaptability and turn it into a successful, scalable conservation program that can save the species from extinction?